Hello, DC3. Are you guys there?
Yes.
All right, James, hi.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going okay. Just finished doing the dishes and doing family stuff, as usual. I'm just coming off of a bunch of chores, dealing with the kid, ready to teach some CAD.
Nice. Oh wait, has your kid woken up more times in the middle of the night, like looking for people? Remember that happened last class and you were like, no.
Oh, that was really bad. Yeah, because I had my mother-in-law here, and I think she just knew that there was action. My mother-in-law listens to political news really loud, and you can't get her to turn it down. She just won't do it. She's like, doesn't listen to people because she's the boss. So, yeah, we were like, please keep that down. And then, yeah, the kid woke up, and I was like, oh, that's a bummer to my wife. And then I gotta go. Kind of put her on the,
Oh no.
yeah. It was fine, but it was the first, so I'm sure it went fine. How's everyone else doing? So, hey, James, tell me again, where are you?
I really don't know. Just kidding.
Cool.
I'm actually in
Yeah.
LA, but I'll be coming up to San Francisco next semester.
Are you coming back to school? Are people coming back to school? What's the deal?
I have I was subletting my apartment while COVID was happening at the beginning of the semester, but now I'm moving back into that apartment off campus in
Okay.
San Francisco. That's my plan.
Is anybody still like staying in the new building that they just built? Are they dorms? They're new dorms, right? I'll take that as a no. I saw this kind of I wanted it to be like a bright spot for the school, but instead it felt a little weird with the head of the school walking around the brand new dorm building that they just built across the street from the campus, showing off all of the cool new ecological features of the building, how it collects rainwater, and how there's like this whole new cafeteria and everything that's built in where you can order food and I was just like, yeah, that's looks great. If you could eat inside and could stay in a dorm. I don't know. Nobody's in the dorms, huh?
Do we even have new students like getting on board in America or staying in the dorm this semester?
Yeah,
I don't even think the dorm is open.
right. That's the thing. I mean, the last time I taught at the school, that was a construction site still. And it looks like a
Mm.
cool building. And it's amazing to think that CCA will have its own food source besides the A2 Cafe or Wolf's across the street. Did you guys ever go to Wolf's?
Yep.
Yeah. I went to Wolf's when I was a student at CCA in 2001, and I used to order just rice because I was poor. And so
Yeah, kind of pricey.
I would just
Yeah,
live off of like rice and coffee, and I made it. It's great. I was cranky all the time. I used to get really stressed out before crits because I was just running off of pure starch and caffeine. Well, enough chat, guys. I was kind of hoping to just jump right into this thing today. I've got a little plan for us. We're working on this portable speaker, the Bose speaker. I sent you guys a link, or I sent you an attachment in an email with the Bose logo in Adobe Illustrator. So I'll share my screen here and show you guys what I did to just kind of prep for class. I have been working the speaker up since we met last time, and here's where I'm at. And so you can see that I've made maybe a little bit more progress than you all are at, and I'm hoping that this will take up a good chunk of our time to kind of walk us through building this thing up to this point. So some of the adjustments that I made that I'm going to help you guys figure out is how to add fillets to all of your circular patterns after you've created them. which is a really cool effect that you can't do in Rhino. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to work out this rather complex little surface interaction here. There's this handle thing. We're going to build this as well. And we're going to pay pretty specific attention to all of the different items that are built up in the model as we go. So there's a whole bunch of solid bodies in this model after we finish for the day. And you can see here that I've got the logo also inside here. And I've got some custom graphics going on. I just have one because I'll just show you guys an example and then let you guys do the rest of the work on your own. This handle thing here is another thing we're going to talk about. We'll do a little sweep on that. And yeah, so in my notes for class today, I have like the theme of the class is the split command. So if you remember split, it's under the direct editing tab, and it's right here, split. And it's an important tool in SolidWorks because it allows you, as it says in its description, to create multiple bodies from a single body, which is kind of a pretty typical procedure for SolidWorks building, where you kind of build a larger kind of generic form and then sort of chip away at it piece by piece. And as you learn this tool better and better, you have to be able to keep track of the bodies that you create inside of each individual part file. So yeah, so there's that stuff to talk about. And then just on the topic of kind of doing logos and getting Illustrator line work into SolidWorks, there's some discussion I think to have around just how to set up your AI line work so that it'll work well in SolidWorks. And that also will put us into Illustrator as well. And I was trying to remember back to, you know, when I talked to you guys about Illustrator, who's got experience and who does it. And for this class, I don't really care because we're going to be using Illustrator in such a specific way that it doesn't really count towards like general understanding of how the program works, but it should be enough to get you going in Illustrator for the specific purpose of setting up line work for use in SolidWorks. So whether you have a general understanding of AI or not, you'll at least know enough about the program to run it for the benefit of your SolidWorks files. There's more stuff to go over too in the work I did on the top of this. You can see that I got all these little bubbles in here, and that's going to be a collection of circular patterns, which you should be familiar enough with now to kind of get a sense of. But if you notice, it's a little bit different in the demo we'll do today because it doesn't actually go fully into a 360-degree angle. It doesn't sweep all the way around. It's a very precise kind of set of angle that we are going to approach the circular pattern. And then it's also asymmetrical as well, which is another kind of a difference between kind of what I've told you guys so far about circular patterns and polar arrays and stuff. I don't think even in Rhino we did polar array with any examples except a full 360-degree sweep. So there'll be a little bit of a unique catch to it in today's kind of walkthrough. Anybody got any stories for me or any questions, comments about homework? I saw some of the files that came in. They look good. I mean, again, it was a practice homework. It's, you know, it's a semi-complex kind of procedure to understand how patterning a pattern can go. And, you know, my goal with giving out these kind of easy homework assignments is just to, you know, get you guys to use the program outside of class, but then also to get your own personal feel for how these tools work, because it definitely takes something like that. I can walk you through the steps of how a tool works, but each of the tools in both SolidWorks and Rhino have their own kind of feel and their own kind of cadence of how and when you're supposed to do different things. circular patterns in SolidWorks specifically have a couple of conditions, you know, like setting up a good axis of revolution. Anybody have any takeaways or anything they wanted to talk about as far as how it went?
I actually had a question. So I know you can do I forget what it's called, but I think it's called a revolve boss base, and you can end up making it a shell right away. I think it's called a thin revolve or something.
Yeah,
Um,
thin feature, yeah.
Yeah, so if you know that you're gonna have something that is thin, then why not like do that? So when I was doing some of my pattern making, I did the thin feature on one of them, and I was like, at what point would you use that versus using like the entire delete face shell join and then patterning, like, you know?
Huh, interesting. I don't quite know what you mean when you're saying why would you use thin over a pattern?
No, not over a pattern. Like when I was making the revolves in order to put the pattern on it, I ended up doing it with like a thin revolve, I think it's called. I forget the exact name.
Yeah. I get it now. Okay, so when you're doing the shelled revolve,
Yeah, exactly.
um, yeah, there's no right answer to that question. If you know you're going to make a shelled item, then you can go ahead and apply the thin feature. Like let's say here, if you know you apply the thin feature to the single line that you're going to revolve, that's just a good technique, I would call it. You know, I wouldn't say there's any suggestion on why that wouldn't be an appropriate technique. Um, so if that works for you, like if you know you're going to make a hollow revolve, then yeah, throw on thin feature. Um, it's a good
Okay, cool. I just like,
yeah.
but then if you do throw on thin feature, can you ever make it a complete solid again or no?
Well, if you do a bunch of like patterned cuts into that wall thickness, let's call it, then taking it apart would be pretty hard. Um, let's try. Let me just draw a line and make a revolve, and that might help me kind of talk through it. So you're talking about if we do a revolve boss of this guy and we turn on thin feature, we get the, oh, I'm in centimeters right now. It's annoying. Let me change it to 2 millimeters. Oh, look at how it does that. Interesting. It actually connects the line. If we look at this from the side view, it actually connects it straight down like that instead of doing like an offset circle. Is that kind of the thing that you got?
Well, mine was less complicated. So to be honest, I'm not 100% sure if that's what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of more like that. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like if you're going to pattern something, then try to make it solid and then shell it out. But if you're not going to pattern something and you know it's going to be thin, then you can use a thin feature.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Okay.
right. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. To be honest, you know, James, I always feel like the thin feature tool is one of those things where I am struggling to think of when somebody would need it, you know? Like it turns on for me automatically when I incorrectly draw a profile curve. And usually I use that thin feature tool as like a reminder that I need to fix my line work as opposed to like using it purposefully to build something in a certain way. So that's kind of how it fits into my own workflow. The other way, which I'm just kind of like, just sort of kind of riffing right now, is like, if you're going to draw, like one of the things we'll do in Illustrator later is we'll make one of the little plus signs, which is one of the graphics that's on, it's one of the graphics on the speaker. So if you have the need to draw graphics and you want to do it in SolidWorks, you can sketch out the line work in a 2D fashion like this, and then you can extrude it with thin feature turned on, and you can get some thickness out of it. So if I just put like a little 2 millimeter or 2 millimeter, that will thicken up a single line. So it's kind of a trick to get thickness out of a straight line.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't use it that often. And when I teach it, I'm always like, if this thing turns on, then you know something's wrong with your file. So yeah. So, okay, cool. So let me All right, so this is just my little practice file, this one that we're all looking at right now. And so I'm gonna just kind of close this one down and open up the one that we did in class. I'm gonna use actually a fun little trick here for SolidWorks, which is, if you haven't looked up here in the upper right-hand corner, there's 2 of these little buttons right here, and these are for tiling multiple files. So if you ever want to open up 2 files at the same time, and I might get to this later in class when we talk about linked files, but you can tile one file over to the right, and then you could open another file. Let's see, the one I had in class was called Speaker in Class. So I'll open this one and I'll tile this one to the left. SolidWorks is cool about taking both files and organizing them so that you can see them side by side. So if I shrink up my kind of workspace here a little bit, we can kind of look at these 2 things side by side. So here's where we ended in class last week, is you know, kind of the generic form with the first little bit of the form started, and here's where we're going to hope to end up end of the day. So if you have multiple files that you're working on, this tile feature can sometimes be nice. So just so you know what these little buttons do up here at the top. There's also things like the minimize button too. If I hit minimize and I tile this one over to the other side, you should know that this little thing in the lower left-hand corner is how files get minimized. So if you ever hit the minimize button by accident and you don't know where your file went, it'll stuff it down here in the corner, and it's kind of hard to find if you don't know where to look. So that's another just sort of quick tip. So I'm going to actually close this file down. And I think to start class, what we'll do is actually just jump over to Illustrator. So let me show you guys what I sent you. So everybody should have at least this AI file right here. Okay, I went to the Bose website, or actually I didn't go to the Bose website. I just found some, I probably downloaded the virus or something onto my computer, but I just did one of those like Google searches for like Bose logo vector or something like that, where you try to get the AI file. And I forget the website that I used to get it, but they gave me this whole packet of stuff, and it's a good kind of heads up to see like how a logo is delivered, right? They're kind of appeasing all different types. Like this AI file would be considered a working file. This is one that you can open in Illustrator. So let's open that in Illustrator. But then if you look at the other types, there's a DXF file, which is the kind of file that we're going to need for SolidWorks. There's an EPS file. This would be if you're going to be putting your logo into some sort of like InDesign file or a book or something like that, and you want the crispiness of a vector logo without as much editing ability. There's even an HTML if you're just a web designer and you want to just slap this thing onto your WordPress site or something like that. And then they give you a PNG file as well. If maybe you're just maybe you're totally like unskilled design wise and you just want to make t-shirts that say Bose, you could take this PNG file and forward it directly to a t-shirt manufacturer, and they would slap it on your t-shirt and you'd be done without having to do any design work whatsoever. So this little packet of files is kind of telling in terms of like kind of like the way I make you guys make zip files of all your stuff. Just like when you get out into the real world and somebody says, do you have a logo? Say, yeah, I got a logo in every which way that you can imagine, and when I do graphic design for people, it's always a little, it's a good part of the conversation when I can say, yeah, well, I can deliver the file in any file format that you need for any type of printing or 3D CAD scenario. So let me know. And this kind of lineup would give you a pretty good example of all avenues of need for a logo. So we're going to get here into both. So we'll look at this logo in Illustrator here. Let's see here. I am using one of the specific workspaces of Illustrator, which is typography. If you go up to the top and click down here, there's quite a few different workspaces. If we switch over to typography, we get the benefit of some of the character flyouts. We get a line work flat for the stroke. We get a stroke layout. We also get this one down here at the bottom, which is Pathfinder. That's another one we're going to use here. If you don't have those, you can always go to the Window tab and you can scroll down and you can find Pathfinder and you can turn that on and it might show up as its own little window like this. And if you don't have it in your sidebar here, you want to pull it over to, you see that little blue mark and it'll set it down in there for you. If we take a look at the images, now you're going to have the images of the speaker as well. So let's take a look at maybe this one. This top view is going to be kind of our guide for class today. So you can get a sense of how big the logo should be. And then if I zoom in on this, even though it's a super grainy, low res internet stolen image, you can see that, Bose is a high-end company and this is a high-end item. This is an expensive speaker. And so they've made the extra effort with their logo and all of these graphics to actually do a two-part mold so that they have two colors of silicone being injection molded into the same part. So one of the big drivers for the cost on this item would be the fact that the logo is raised and it's in a different material that makes it stand out more. So the tooling for this top part would be a lot more expensive, and so we really want to mimic that in our own design. So we want to take advantage of the line work from Illustrator and bring that Illustrator line work into SolidWorks so we can really make this logo pop. It's very similar to the technique I showed you guys with the Logitech mouse and when we put the AI line work into Rhino, but it's a little bit more difficult actually in SolidWorks. So that's why I have to make sure you guys get a little walkthrough on it. So anyway, so we'll get into that. So I'm going to leave this kind of like just open and hanging out so we can refer back to it as we sort of build our CAD. So right away, we'll jump right back to it. You can see one thing that's happened. If we look at the logo that we're given from the internet, let me zoom in on it here. All right. And again, I'm using that technique I told you guys about before in Adobe stuff. If you hit space bar, it'll turn your mouse into a little hand so you can get a grip on your artboard and move your stuff around. It makes it a little bit more fluid inside of Illustrator. And then if you combine that with the control button, you can zoom in, and if you add Control and Alt along with spacebar, it's a three finger operation. But if you press all three of those buttons at the same time on a PC, you'll change the plus to a minus and you can zoom back out. So just helps get kind of flexible in Illustrator. Notice one thing, that they did take the circle R. This is a registered trademark. They took that off on the product, and that likely has to do with the capabilities of the manufacturer. So when you work with the manufacturer, they're going to have certain capabilities, like how much detail they can injection mold into a part. And if we look at the logo here, it's pretty noticeable that like the line weight of the circle around the circle R is microscopic. And I bet, $50 that the manufacturer was like, sorry, we can't pull off that circle R. And I bet you even more that it was like a big argument at the company. The graphic design department was probably pissed about that. So if you pay attention to things like this minus button and the plus button here, these are the volume controls for the speaker. You can see that they're both just about at the same width, which is part of the graphic design process, but it's also probably the minimum width that they're able to pull off with the tooling that they've decided on for this part. So again, I told you guys that this is a 2-part mold, or at least a 2-operation mold, with the logo and all the buttons being, I think, a harder durometer silicone than the cap itself, and also a different color. Those kind of things are going to each come with their own set of constraints. And I bet you they tried to make the graphics as minimal as possible. And the factory said, we can do the plus and minus, but we can't do the circle R. So you got to take that out. So those are like some of the kind of like, those would be considered product management as opposed to like product engineering. So if we were making this thing in a real design firm, we would do the CAD, we would get the design approved, we send it to manufacturing, and then there's product managers that kind of usher the product through the manufacturing process. And those product managers will receive the information from the manufacturer, and then they will feed it out to the team and have big meetings with the designers, the graphic designers, the VPs, the account executives, all these other people on the team will have to weigh in on decisions like, do we take the circle R off? Do we make it bigger? Like, what do we do? So that's the boring part of design that they'll never tell you about in school. So I'll be the one to break the news to you. Like, it's not all about design. Sometimes you got to make these little decisions. I think I told you guys about this last time when I was telling you about making slip and slides in Canada, and we had to make everything in French. Same thing. So we're going to take the circle R off is the short story. When I click on this, it's pretty simple to just take the R out, but the circle is kind of like linked into the rest of the logo. And so I'm going to right click and do something called release clipping mask. I'm pretty sure that this circle just got looped into the clipping mask. So we can take that out like that. And then it's always a good idea to just test your graphics. Usually the way I'll test them is just by switching from a full fill to an outline. So just jump over here and check the outline. And that's always nice. There's a button up here that's called outline under view, which will show you the actual line work that's driving the graphics in Illustrator. So if we go to outline, you can see here, this is the actual, I want to call it data, the 2-dimensional CAD data that we're going to send over to SolidWorks. So there's this outline that sort of shows up, and this might be like a white background or something, but I'm going to take that out as well. So if you didn't see that, it's under view, and it changes. It should say view and then outline, but you can go to view and then GPU preview, and that'll give you the graphics. So that looks all good. It's nice and it's clean. It's a clean outline, and let's just double check that that's okay too. Cool. So there's that. So we're good with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file as a new AI file that's edited and ready for CAD. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to call it, I'm just going to call it CAD Ready. Okay. CAD Ready AI. And we'll go Save, and we'll say Save again. So if we wanted to put this into Rhino, we'd be done at this point. That's it. All you need to do is have a workable AI file for Rhino, and you can call it a day. But in SolidWorks, we need something different. SolidWorks needs to have something called a DXF file, which is called a Drawing Exchange Format. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go File, and we're going to go Export. All right. We're going to go Export As. And
did you increase the stroke on your type, or are you just showing outline still?
I just changed it to outline. I didn't increase the stroke at all. And in fact, I'm not worried about the stroke because again, it's only this outline view that I'm gonna get. So I'm gonna get line
Okay.
in SolidWorks, like it's actually, this is what it's gonna give me. So the stroke actually doesn't matter. If I take this logo and I jack up the stroke to like 10, and then I show it in outline mode, it's the same CAD. The stroke is actually just a visual graphics application to this data. I feel even confused explaining it. So if you don't get it,
No, no worries. It just looked a lot thicker than mine, so I was wondering.
yeah, don't worry about the stroke. Let's set it to 1. So yeah, so when you export in Illustrator, you get a lot more options than you would if you were just going to save. So like if I went to like save as, and I look at the types of files that it gives me, I have some but not many types of files. But when you go to export, you get a couple and other ones that are a little bit more specific for our thing. So you can see I tested it once already, and it's preset to DXF for me, but you might have to open the drop down and go to DXF. And there's a ton of other cool stuff in here too. You can even save your AI files as a PSD or a TIFF or whatever you like. And so it's good to know about the export feature in Illustrator if you haven't yet ever had anybody ask you for something strange. It's funny that they have Flash in here because I think Flash is a completely dead program, but sometimes, you know, you'll get people asking for things like an SVG file, which is, this one is for if you're working with polygon modeling or like an animator. I learned about this when I took a class in animation years ago, and we wanted to do animated graphics for the intro to like a video or like a, you know, some sort of YouTube video intro where the letters come crashing through a window or something like that. And so we were writing out graphics in Illustrator, and then we had to save everything as an SVG file. So that's where you find it, is under the export command. So we'll save a DXF here, and I'm gonna just keep the name the same and let the extension be different. So DXF will be different. Cool, that's that. And that is it. So while we're in Illustrator, we'll hang out a little longer in here. We can close this file now. And why don't we just open up one of these images of the actual thing here. So I have this quarter view speaker PNG. I'm going to take that one, the one that we're viewing over here. I'm going to take this guy, and I'm just going to do my best to recreate just a few of these graphics. So I think the one that we should maybe attempt is this kind of on button graphic right here. And then we can also look at the plus button as well, because both of those graphics will give you enough knowledge to build the other ones and also some other fun tricks along the way. So, I mean, clearly this image we're trying to trace is at an angle. There's foreshortening happening, so we can't exactly trace anything. We have to use our powers of artistic ability to sort of reference the image and build our own graphics, but shouldn't be too hard. We'll start with the plus sign because it's just so easy. Why don't we just grab the pen tool in a super simple way, and we'll just build it kind of over here to the side. We should probably scale this thing, this graphic, up to the size of the actual cut we're trying to make, but we haven't made that yet. So we're just going to make it any old size and scale it up when we get it into SolidWorks. So not rocket science here. I'm going to draw a straight line, and at least in the Illustrator that I'm using, it snaps into a vertical position pretty easily. And then I'll hit escape to drop that tool. My line work is set to white with no outline right now. So I'm just going to switch that and set it to a black outline so we can see what we're drawing. There's that. And why don't I, while I'm at it, maybe just bump up the line weight just a little bit. Yeah. I think when I did this before, I kind of made it like a little bit too thin. Okay, so there we go. So I'm just gonna zoom in on my straight line here. I'm gonna take this line like this, and I'm gonna right click on it, and I'm gonna go down to transform, and then I'm gonna go down to rotate, okay? And I'm gonna set this to 90 degrees, and I'm gonna hit preview, okay? And then I'm gonna hit copy, and that's gonna copy the line and move it over 90 degrees. Basic stuff here. The other thing I'll do here is I'll select both of these, and I'm going to go to my stroke setting here on the right side, and I'm just going to give these things a rounded cap. So that's this little button right here, round cap. So I like that tool a lot because it didn't used to be there back in the day, and it was always a pain in the ass to make your own little round cap on all your line work. So that'll be that. Turn that off. Okay. The next little trick here has to do with that outline thing, right? If we send this over to SolidWorks as it is, what SolidWorks is going to see is just two straight lines like this. And so as we know, and as we've been kind of talking about, you know, straight lines like this, if you try to extrude off of them, you're going to get the thin feature that's going to turn on, and that could be, you know, it could work, but we want to have control over everything here. So specifically, you know, we've set the line weight here, the stroke thickness to a certain amount, which is 2 points on my side. And we want to capture that. You know, we don't want to send two thin little lines over. We want to send a set of graphics over to SolidWorks that's 2 points. So the way to handle that is we'll do it one by one. We'll select the first line here, and let's see, we go to object up here at the top. It's object and path, and then outline stroke. And what that's going to do is it's going to draw a line around the actual graphic that we've built. So watch it happen. So it's quick, but there she goes. And so you can see here, if I zoom in on that, what it's done is it's given us a perfect line that captures the full thickness of that 2 point adjustment that we made. And now if we look at that in outline mode, you can see that the CAD that's going to get sent over, the data that's sent over, is now a full representation of the rounded thickness. So that's good news. So we'll do that with the second one as well. So we'll take this, we'll go object, we'll go path, and we'll go outline stroke. Okay. Yeah. Double check what we're looking at. So here we go. Okay, so this is coming along. But the other thing we want to do is we're going to use the Pathfinder tool now to combine these two forms into one clean outline so that it's not two different shapes that are overlapping. It's one clean outline that goes across this whole thing. So let's take a look at that. And at this point, we can also switch from a filled graphic to an outline to kind of watch this thing kind of in real time, do its thing. So
sorry, Jim. How
Yeah.
did you do the objects things?
let's see here. Object, path, outline stroke. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
Path. Outline stroke. Got it. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so if you guys don't know about Pathfinder, it's this little button right here. It's kind of like, I was trying to think about an analogy for what this tool's like before you get it. Mo, you got a question?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Anybody?
Well, actually, Jim, how did you make the cross be white?
Oh, well, let's see. So if I select one of these arms, I went over here to the left side, and this is where you can set the stroke or the fill. And there's this little swap button right here that swaps between the two. It's a
Okay.
little button. See that? So if you want to switch a shape in Illustrator from filled, which looks like this, to outline, you hit this little tiny ass button right here. It's small.
But why, like my cross is have like like a straight inside, like a line inside.
Oh no. Not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, mine as well.
Yeah? Let's see what this is looking like. So who wants let's
Yeah,
do
me
a
too.
screen share and let's see what's up.
You want me to do?
Yeah, Bo or Hirsch, whoever
No,
wants
about the
to.
second devices. So
Okay.
could you?
Harsh,
Yeah,
can you take the lead? Show us what you got.
Yeah, I can do.
Thank you, Harish.
Yeah, sure. You can see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Huh. All right. So, Harish, why don't you hit undo a couple times for me so that I can kind of see.
Yeah, I'm undoing it.
All right, let's do another thing. Go up to view at the top
Yeah.
and then say view using CPU.
I just GPU.
GPU, sorry. Okay. It does nothing. All right, cool. We'll do another couple things. Select one of those blocks, if you can, just one of them. And then go over to the fill and the stroke on the lower left-hand side. Yeah. And set either of those to a color. So cool. All right. And yeah, that should do something. So let's take a look at maybe the stroke size next, because I noticed there's no stroke size either. So up at the top. Yeah, let's set the strokes. So you have to select the graphic itself. Yeah. Get that to do something. That's, yeah. All right. I'm still lost.
You know, I actually just figured out a way to go around it. If you click on it, it says group and right click and say ungroup. And then you can click on the center path because when you clicked on like outline as well, it created two outline paths. So like right click on it on your entire thing. Yeah. And then go ungroup.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can click on the center line. So now click away. Yeah. And then
Center
you can
line?
click on that. Yeah. And then you can delete that. Oh, wait, not the whole thing. So go back and then, yeah.
Got it. Let's go. Thanks.
Yeah. But I don't know why it didn't. I had that same exact thing though.
Interesting. Huh.
So how do we like do the gym? How do we do the rounded thing? I couldn't find my tray.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's under the stroke panel. So let me bring that up. Just one more thing, Hirsch, before you go up to view and change it to whatever the opposite one, view using CPU. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get you to show some sort of fill and outline. It's looking, let's do
So
it.
is it because fill this up?
Maybe. Those aren't colors though. There should be color. And did you use the pen tool to draw this?
Yeah, I use pen tool.
Okay. Draw another straight line with the pen tool for me and let me just see what happens. Up at the top. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's put a stroke on there.
Yeah. Am I doing it right?
Well, it should change color to whatever those colors are in the lower left-hand corner.
Yeah, it is in red, and it's like my stroke is like 18 and still doesn't work.
It doesn't, no, it should be super fat. Okay. What is happening?
Are you on view outline still?
Mm,
Yeah, click on the preview button.
preview.
Yeah.
Oh,
There it is. That's what we're looking for. Now we're talking. Okay,
oh, I see.
James for the win. Okay, so now we know a few things. So we know that you're going to likely have to redraw your cross to be straight lines like you did. Yeah, just bail on that. We don't need that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So am I doing this the cross again?
Yeah, do it again.
Okay. So I stop the screen share.
You can keep going. Here, why don't you go up to window at the top?
Yeah.
Go to window and open that up, and then go down to stroke.
Stroke. Yeah.
There we go. And then drag that box over to the right to sit in this like thin little bar of tools. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so then now that's saved where it needs to be. Click on that,
Yeah, got it.
and
This one.
there's your rounded buttons right there. Okay.
Got it.
So
Got it.
anybody
Thank you.
else that needs to know where that is, that's where that's at.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how you ended up with rectangles there, but you can stop now, and I'll go back and I'll walk through the whole thing again. I could use the practice. Oh, hold on. And we're back. Okay. So again, yeah, fun stuff. I'm not sure how that ended up, but we're using just the straight pen tool, drawing straight lines, and just going to set like a small stroke to that, and then using the stroke button, add the rounded cap, and then it's best to zoom in on this as it happens, but you select the single line and go to Object, Path, Outline Stroke. And you know, if it's getting confusing with the whole like view outline, view preview thing, then try to just recognize these little blue dots as where your line work actually sits. I don't use this thing that often except in this kind of unique scenario. So yeah, so we should be somewhere in this neighborhood. And you can also use the kind of outline mode here to get an idea of what you're ending up with, playing around with the different stroke sizes and such. So.
Sorry, Jim, I have a quick question. Can you show me the location of the stork in window? Because my AI is Chinese, so I cannot find the stork.
Okay, so then the challenge is up to you. What are the characters for stroke? If you notice
Okay.
here on mine, there's a hotkey, Control
F10, yeah.
F10.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem, no problem. All right. So here we are, getting ready to use Pathfinder to hopefully bring these two things together. Just to make my life easier, I'm going to make them both the same width. And then, yeah, so this Pathfinder tool, it's right here. And any of these tools that are on the right side, if you don't have them in your lineup, they're all stashed under window. This is the full list of tools available in Illustrator. So anytime somebody pulls up something that you don't know where it's at, you can always find Pathfinder. Here's type if you don't have type. Paragraph is another one I use all the time. Everything is here. So Pathfinder is the one we're going to use next. And it has its own set of hotkeys too. Shift Control F9. So when we open this tool up, I can just swing it out here to kind of take a look at it. It's kind of like Boolean union and Boolean difference. The first one's called unite, and that's the one that we're going to use. We're going to select both of these things. You have to hold down Shift to select multiple pieces of line work. But once they're both selected, you go to Pathfinder and it just joins them together like that. So if you ever want to make yourself some sweet graphics, you know, combining shapes together is a way to do that. And Pathfinder is the definite way to do that. So that's going to give us this really nice, clean outline that we can then bring over and use. Notice this is a enclosed, watertight, you know, this is a fully enclosed piece of line work here. So it's perfect for SolidWorks or Rhino. But this would be our plus button. So I'm going to take this and put it back where it belongs. Pathfinder, right there. And so there's our plus button, right? I mean, it seemed when I first started talking about building the plus, I was like, this will be easy. And now that we have walked through it, I'm sort of like, maybe not so much. The next one I wanted to make is the on button. And so we'll just take a look at it and realize it's kind of a trimmed circle with a straight line through it. So let's do that. Actually gonna do one thing here, hold on. I am just undoing back to the point where I had a straight line so that I can double check the width of my stroke. Okay, so I have a 2-point stroke. I have a little sketch pad next to me, and I'm just gonna take a big note here. Whenever you start doing graphics for a product, you want the stroke size to be the same on all these graphics. So if it's 2-point for this guy, then I'm going to do 2-point for this one as well. So always have a notepad nearby. Let me just zip through this bit here. I'm going to select this and this. Oh, this guy goes there. So there's that one. And then the next is going to be our on button. So I'm going to just come over here to the basic shapes tool, and Illustrator doesn't have a circle tool, it has an ellipse tool. And if you hold down Shift while you draw the ellipse, it'll give you a circle. Now, I have this annoying thing going, so when I draw my circle, there's no stroke or fill attached to it. So I'm just going to click here on the stroke button, and I'm just going to give it a black stroke so I can actually see what I'm working on. And I'm going to hope that works. If it doesn't work, I have to try again. There we go. I'm going to give this thing a stroke of 2. Make it nice and thick, so it'll be the same. So this will be the same thickness as this. I'm going to line up the center of this circle with the kind of center of my plus sign so that I can make these about the same scale. That's close enough, I think. And then I want to trim a section out of this circle. So what I'm going to do here is I'll actually go and do it the hard way. I'm going to turn on the rulers for my artboard here. So that's going to be Control R, or I think it's View and Rulers. And you should say Show Rulers or Control R. So When you have your rulers on in Illustrator, you can click on the ruler and you can drag down a guideline, and this guideline will be a good way to kind of understand 2 points on the circle that are in line with each other. Okay, you don't want to pull it all the way down to the halfway point. You just want to trim this circle so that it kind of looks like the reference over here. So actually maybe it's going to be a little bit higher. So rulers guides are a little bit strange in Illustrator. I don't love using them. There's like an edit ruler, edit guides thing in here. Yeah, see guides, and then unlock guides if you want to move them. The way these guides work, they're kind of locked in position. So if you want to move them after you lay them down, you have to either draw a new one, delete the one you made, or you unlock them and then you can move them again. So I'm just going to move that up a little bit. I'm going to click on the actual line work there. And then I'm going to go up here to my pen tool on the left side. I'm going to click and hold down on that. And there's a button here called Add Anchor Point. And I'm going to bring my, I'm going to switch to Add Anchor Point. There's a little plus sign that pops up next to the pen. And then I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to add an anchor point to the actual line work right at that guideline. So there's one. And there's another one. Okay, and you can see the new anchor point that's added in there. All right, so put one on one side, one on the other. And then you're going to click on the direct selection tool, the white arrow. And this will allow you to select sections of the line work up into that point that you added. So this will take out sections of line work in between points. So there's one half, here's the other half, okay? And watch out for these little stragglers that'll hang out that are left behind. They're invisible, so sometimes you have to do a Control A to show all, and you can see here's the little anchor point there in the center. You can click on that, get rid of it. It's not mandatory, but it's preferred to just get rid of all your additional points in space. So that'll be that. And now it's just about the same procedure as before. So we're going to take the remaining line work there. We're going to add from the stroke menu, we're going to add a rounded tip. And then we're going to switch our pen tool from add anchor point just back to regular pen tool. And we'll just put up a little straight line right here. Like that. I'll hit escape to drop that. And you can see that Illustrator's starting to get the gist of what I'm doing, for instance. Like as I continually use the pen tool over and over, it starts to recognize that and it starts to set the line weight to the same thing every time. So drawing this line, I don't have to set the line weight or the color. It starts to just kind of pick up where I left off in the last tool. So that's a nice fact. So here's my nice straight line right here with a rounded edge. And that's all good. I'm just going to do, I'll just select both. Actually, I'll hit shift and I'll select this and this. And that's both together. And I'm going to go to object and path and outline stroke. Okay. And we'll just check it one more time. GPU preview. So this is what we're going to get over in SolidWorks. So that's very nice. Now there's a guide in there. We want to get rid of that guide. So I click on it and delete it. If you try to delete a guide and it doesn't work, remember you got to go down to guides and go unlock guides or lock guides. It's here. Just back to my reference. Looks close enough to me. Should be good to go. And if I were you guys, and you haven't started doing this yet, what I would do is I would take these graphics, let's just select them, and we're going to go Control C to copy, Control N for a new file. We'll take a nice little 8.5 by 11 page. We'll give it a name. graphics, R1. And we'll paste the clean graphics down on our page just like that. And I would go ahead I wish I could go back in time. I would go ahead, guys, and start yourself up an Illustrator graphics page like this. And anytime you make graphics for any product, if this is the first time, then you can start the file today. But just drop your graphics onto this file, and then by the time you graduate school, you'll have hundreds and hundreds of graphics, all in perfect Illustrator format. So, you know, here you are in sophomore year, and you know, by junior year, you're going to do a bunch more electronics and stuff. You're going to need more on buttons, more plus buttons. So you can have this little stash starting today. So I'm just going to go save and save this with all the rest of my stuff. Perfect. Because I'm going to be adding these to my SolidWorks files, I do want to break them out into individual DXF files. So it's a different move now. So I'm just going to, what I'll do here is I'll select the on button just like that, and I'll go export selection. Last time I did export, this time I'm going to do export selection, and that's a way to export just that little piece of graphics out. I am going to save it. Formats. Hello, hold on. Is this going to work? Scale. It's not giving me the chance to do a DXF. Okay. Let's not do this. Never mind. Never mind. Cancel. All right, never mind. Let's just save this as a DXF, and we'll just delete out the part we don't want. That's the plan. Anyway, save as. Don't save as. Export. It's always a couple of minutes in each class where I'm just sort of making it up as we go along. Okay, so that in the background has spit out the DXF file that we need for SolidWorks. And now we have this AI file, which we'll save. And we'll keep that in our kitty for all projects moving forward. And you know, pay attention to the other graphics that are on here, okay? So we made the plus sign. You'll have to make the minus sign, whatever button this is. You'll have to make yourself a little Bluetooth graphic here. And this button here looks like an arrow pointing through a circle. You can make that one as well. That'll be a nice little bit of practice for those of you who are new to Illustrator. You know, techniques are the same for each one. And you know, don't be tempted to go online and try to steal AI graphics from other websites. They're always a little bit janky, and it's a good strategy and skill to have to pull this stuff off on your own. So we're good to go. We can shut this down. This is this. Perfect. And so we're done with Illustrator for the day. We can close it down. Clear the clipboard. Okay, we'll keep this guy on. We'll jump over to SolidWorks. Okay, so we're digging on this guy. Now, the thing I wanted to start with for this is, you know, how to, sorry, I'm gonna try to apply all my Illustrator Zoom tools now, so I have to switch back to this. The thing I wanted to start with was adding fillets to this circular pattern. So, you know, to do it efficiently is our goal here, right? We could, you know, kind of easily just jump into one of the cool features that SolidWorks has is if you just grab a fillet tool. It's probably better if I show you this on another part. Hold on. Let's just. Okay. One fun fact about the fillet tool I haven't told you guys about yet, if I switch this to 2 millimeters. If you click on a flat face, any flat face in SolidWorks with the fillet tool, it will automatically run around and add a fillet to all the edges of that flat face. So see how I just click on that flat face and it fillets the whole thing. If I go up here to say any of these edges here and I try to fillet those, it'll scan the entire surface and it'll grab all the hard edges and fillet all of them in one slick move. So that's a cool fact about SolidWorks. If you haven't figured that part out yet. In terms of this model, you know, there's a temptation, I think, to sort of, if you wanted to fillet all of these holes, right, you could come in here with the fillet tool and you could say, maybe add a 1/4 millimeter fillet and just click the open face of this and it'll scan the entire set of surfaces, and every single one of those holes, it will attempt to fillet them. You can see here how it's giving me the wheel to tell me it's really thinking hard. The computer is now running around and trying to fillet all of those edges. And so we've seen it do it in 2 simple examples, and now we're giving it probably the hardest example possible. I'm regretting even trying it because there's, you know, trouble coming down the road. The other thing that's happening too is it's scanning this top edge as well, and it wants to fillet that as well. It's also filleting the bottom edge, and look at it's done it. So there, it's added this little microscopic fillet to this edge. Down here at the bottom, it's added the fillet to all of those edges plus this rim as well. And so it's kind of a down and dirty kind of quick way to fillet everything, but we want more control than that. So luckily there's easy ways to kind of handle this. Now, if you're like me, you're kind of getting a little bit dizzy with the way that all this line work is kind of shown. So I'm going to start to kind of hide the line work that we've used to build this model so far. So I'm just going to right click on some of these lines and go hide. And this doesn't delete them or anything like that. It just hides them from view. Yes, there it goes. Okay. I'm going to also turn off my glossy visuals here so that you guys aren't jealous or distracted by the shiny lights. And then what we'll do here to fillet the holes is we're going to use the timeline bar. That's this little blue bar right down here. So this thing allows you to travel back in time to any point along the way of your build and add details as needed. So I'm going to pull the timeline bar up past the 2 patterns, up past the circular pattern and past the linear pattern. And that's going to bring us all the way back to the point where we had just punched this one little hole in the side of the model. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my fillet tool and I'm going to put a 1/4 millimeter fillet, 0.25, right on that hole, just like that. Actually, that's a pretty weak fillet. Let's do a half millimeter. Feeling frisky? Let's go 0.65. Oh my gosh, 0.8. It's massive. Okay. Full millimeter. All right. Okay, so we fillet one hole and we're back in time now. So now we can scroll this timeline down through the linear pattern. Okay. And you can see here that the linear pattern does its job, but it doesn't pick up the fillet. Okay. So what we have to do is we want to edit the linear pattern now. So I'm going to right click on that linear pattern and I'm going to go edit feature. Okay. And this kind of looks complex, but here's the linear pattern tool that's opened up again, and it's in all of its glory. You know, it's got all the details that we added to it, and it's got the features that it's patterning, which is that one cut extrude. So all we want to do is over here on the right side, you want to unfold your design tree and go down to that fillet you just added, fillet number 2, and make sure you're clicked in this features box and add fillet to the thing being patterned. See, so you can see it's been added in there. And then hit the green check box. And then now you've got all those holes patterned from the one fillet. Okay. I'm just going to make one slight kind of personal adjustment to my model here. I think it's kind of a manufacturing thing or something. I just want to take one of the instances of this pattern out. So kind of like while I'm back in time, while I'm kind of at this point, I'm going to edit the pattern again one more time, a linear pattern. And the instances are at 15 for me. I'm just going to change it to 14. Just take one out. I think just aesthetically, it's a little bit more pleasing to have a little gap in between the end of the pattern and the start of this piece here. So, okay, good. So now we'll take the timeline bar again and we'll pull it down, and we will notice that the circular pattern now breaks. Okay, so this happened when I was kind of trying to, practice for this. So, it turns red and it says unable to create instances for the pattern. Try again by decreasing the number of instances. When this happened to me before, I just went up to edit feature. Okay. And believe it or not, just that alone, just rerunning the feature was enough to kind of get it to work again. So turning the tool on and turning it off again, it's kind of like a computer when a computer starts acting funny, or your phone, when you start to act up, you turn it off, turn it on again. Same kind of thing. We're just patterning the linear pattern, and this linear pattern contains the fillet that we're trying to add. So let's hit that. It says unable to create instances. Let's do this move. Remember I told you guys about this last week. You turn on geometry pattern. All right. And then try again. No bodies. Say all bodies. It's really thinking. You see, the amount of geometry that we're throwing at the computer right now is serious business. The math problem that's happening inside of your computer right now, if you're like me, it's astronomical. I mean, oh my God. Come on now. There she goes. Come on, do it. It's really important when SolidWorks does this, when you're dealing with really heavy circular patterns, to just let it chill and work and let it run through that math problem. Because if you try to go clicking over and check your email or whatever you do, I mean, it's going to crash. Okay, so don't do that. Yeah, you can see that it worked here.
Mine's still not working. It's coming up with a thing that says unable to create pattern. Try decreasing the number of instances. I'm currently at 50. I've taken it down to like 46 and it still doesn't work.
One of the things that I had to do right here was change it from feature scope. I changed it from selected bodies, auto select, to all bodies. That's the thing that's telling this cut pattern what part of your model to affect. So I did two things to get mine to work. I turned on geometry pattern, and I changed the feature scope from selected bodies to all bodies. And then that was enough to get it to go.
Okay, yeah, it's working now.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
I just have to wait for mine to push through.
I don't see any of those like all geometry or something like that. It shows in your screen, but I don't see anything like that.
It might just say feature scope, and it might say
No, I don't
options.
see the scope. Yeah, I see the options.
Yeah, so unfold that.
Okay.
It should be there. So that's a fun way to add a lot of complexity to your model in a really a kind of easy way. It's a lot of math for the computer to do. It takes a little while. It's not like instantaneous the way a lot of stuff is in SolidWorks. But the deal is that, you know, you need to use the timeline bar because you want the fillet to be before the patterns. So just make sure when you're rewatching the video that you use the timeline bar to go back to before you make your patterns to add your fillet to that one instance, because that's an important aspect of the process, is that you add all of the the detail that you want to pattern later on at the first step, the first instance. So plan ahead, you know, like I'm showing you guys this today because I know you guys practiced circular pattern and patterning linear patterns for homework, and I wanted to kind of take it one step further in class today and show you kind of how to go back and edit those things after you've created them. So trying to prove the point of like none of this stuff is set in stone. You can always kind of go back in time and add stuff to the complexity of your model. So yeah, so that's that. So let's go back and, you know, I've got 3 bodies here and just kind of check out where we're at. Good. All right, the next thing that I was going to work on, let's take a look at our kind of inspiration image here. The top of this thing is going to take some love. So we've got to get these little finger grooves in here. You know, these little buttons have got to get in there. And there's quite a few ways we could do that. You know, I want to do it with a revolve. When I first started to practice this for you guys, I thought, okay, I'll just make like a sphere and we'll do a little revolve. But I think I can sketch on here, you know, like if I had a pen, you know, these finger buttons are not really like, let's see, can I sketch? Let's hit that button. No, I can only draw on here. They're not like this, okay? They're a lot cooler looking. They're like, you know, like a smooth little like fingertip shape. So the kind of like shape that we need to draw here is actually going to take a little bit more work than just inserting a sphere and doing like a Boolean difference or something like that. So you got to think about a finger pressing into this. How is that going to feel? It's not like a full circle. So yeah, so let's get into it. The other thing to pay attention to also is kind of the orientation of these buttons in comparison to where the handle is. You can imagine if we could see an exploded view of this thing, there's definitely like some tech that lives inside of this rubber cap, and that each of these buttons probably goes to some sort of PCB board, and then there's got to be some housing mechanism inside of the cap as well to hold the grip handle thing here. So we just need to make sure that this is all orientated correctly. So if we look over here at our model, we've got the start of where the handle is going to go in, and we want to kind of work opposite to that. So we'll have one circle up here and then a little spread of them down here. So if we look at the planes we have available to work off of, you know, any one of these ones could do, but I think the front plane kind of cuts through our model in just the right way so that if we draw on it, we can draw the side view of our cutter that'll do a revolved cut in the top of our speaker. So I'm going to start on the front plane. I'm going to right click and go sketch. I'm going to hit Control 8 to go right from the side view. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start off with, I don't know, just a straight line tool to start. So we'll make our sketch going, take a line. All right, I'm just going to draw a line. Just like that. So the thing I'm paying attention to when I draw this line is how far does the line overlap into the form itself. So I don't have to measure it or anything like that. I can adjust it later. But the thing I want to really avoid is drawing a line where the start or end point actually touches any of these edges. Okay, we want to kind of start it and then overlap it into the model. We don't want to touch any edges. And the reason why is because if we do that, if we take this and we just slide it up to hit an edge, you can see here that it's going to add one of those little sketch relations. It's going to attach itself and snap to that edge. And we definitely don't want that. So we want to start and end the things so that it's inside the form but not touching. Okay. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a spline, and I'm just going to take a typical spline kind of move for me is just to draw a 2-point spline. So connect it to the end of that line I drew before, and just kind of arc it up into space a little bit. And this is a spline, so I have these handles. Okay, so I can bend this now. So I'm going to take this handle and I'm going to do that trick I showed you guys before, where I right click on the diamond and I put a horizontal relation on it. Okay, and that is going to make this handle here stay straight, so you can test it afterwards to make sure that it stays straight. And it also means that when we revolve this shape, that we're not going to get like a pinch point at the bottom. It's going to be a nice flat surface. So from there, it's pretty easy to just take another line and connect the two. And that is the line work that we need to make one of these buttons. Okay. Pay attention to this little sliver here, the overlap of the form and the line work that we drew. Think of this thing like it's a big drill bit, and we're going to spin it around and cut a little sliver out of our form. So it's this overlapping shape that is going to be the thing that we're trying to define here. All the rest of it is just whatever. So the move here is going to be a revolve cut. Now, I don't know if we've done revolve cuts before. It's under the features tab. And it's right here, it's revolve cut. You can tell from the class, you know, we're kind of like slowly but surely moving our way through the features tab, right? We started out doing extrudes and then revolves, and, you know, now we've done some extruded cuts. You know, we're gonna now do a revolve cut. This could be our first revolve cut. It works just the same way as a revolve, it's just cuts. It's kind of like Boolean difference. We'll turn it on, turn the tool on. It looks like it kind of grabbed some stuff automatically. Just going to kind of like take a look at what it's doing here. It says line number 2 is the axis of revolution. I just want to confirm that. So I'm going to click in the axis box and hit this line right here. Yeah, see, it automatically grabbed the wrong one. So yeah, this is the thing that I want. And we're going to do a test run first, okay? So we'll just let that 360-degree cut revolve do its business. Cut a little sliver out. And then we're just going to look back at kind of like what it looks like. Let's take a look at the reference photo here. And it looks like ours is a little bit too far in. So I want to move that out. So this is a key part, I think. Let's take a look here. We want to edit this sketch to move the cut. So I'm going to say edit sketch. It's really taking its time. Okay, so we've learned a little bit, guys, about adding dimensions to sketches and how that can help kind of hold a sketch in position. And we've also learned a little bit about the oddities of line work in SolidWorks. Like, for instance, if I grab onto this line work and I say I want to move this thing over a little bit, you know, I grab this and it stretches out and it acts funny and it moves oddly, see, like this. And we really don't want that. We're going to assume here that, yeah, that we really like the work we've done on this sketch and we want to lock it down in position and not move it again. So we're going to use that trick I told you guys about before that's called block. We're going to select the whole sketch, and then we're going to go to this little button right here. It's a piece of paper with an A and a little asterisk. It's called Make Block. And you'll see what block does. It takes all three of these lines, puts them into a block entity, and we hit OK. And all this does is it allows us to kind of grab onto this sketch and move it freely without it actually, tweaking out. We don't want the thing to tweak out on us. So I am going to move it over towards the edge here. I'm going to dip into 3D to kind of, I wish this was a little bit easier to kind of guesstimate, what this is going to look like. But yeah, let me take a look from the side view. Because again, what I was saying before is like this overlap of this arc here and then the edge of the model is really what we're paying attention to. Sometimes if you switch your model to hidden lines visible, you can get a little bit of a better sense of kind of what kind of effect you're going to get. So this whole overlap here is our cut. Think about a finger, So I'm just going to hope and say that's that. So let's go there. There you go. Nice little finger grip. Looks pretty close to the edge. If I look at this one, close enough, I'm going to call it. Okay. Yours might look a little different. It's all good. So that'll be that. That'll be our first little cut like that. Next move, I think, for us will be to take this sketch, just take a look at it first. In the design tree, you've got the cut, there's the cut, then you got the sketch, and then the block actually gets folded into the sketch itself. So if you're wondering where your block is, it's there. Okay. Okay, cool. And if we look back at our reference image here, it looks like I closed mine. Hold on. Yeah. One of the nice things for us is that, the other set of buttons is almost a mirror of this first one over to this side. So we're going to try to use that little sketch we drew to make this cut on the other side to start a partial circular pattern of cuts on this side of the model. Okay, and it's a little bit tricky, and it's going to require a new tool that we haven't used before that's exactly like the duplicate edge tool that we learned in Rhino, which allows you to take the edge of a model and turn it into a sketch to use for other stuff. Anyway, the tool that we're going to use is it's called Convert Entities. Okay, and it will either duplicate a sketch that you've already drawn onto a new sketch that you're trying to use for something else, or it will duplicate the edge of a model the same way Dupe Edge does. Anyway, we'll take a look at it and see how it works. So first I'll show you why we need to do that, because it's kind of something. Okay, so here's the thing. So we think about this, this mirror operation, right? We want to take this feature and we want to mirror it over to the other side, and then we want to do a circular pattern of that little thumb grip. Okay, so that's good, but watch what happens when I do that, right? I go to the mirror tool, okay? I select the right plane as the mirror I want to jump across. The feature that I want to mirror is this guy, all right? And it starts the mirror easy, like it works, it's great. Okay, so there's the mirror, like perfect. Okay, all we have to do now, a little circular pattern of that, but when we do that, things get strange. As you know, with circular patterns, we need to have a center line sketch or an axis. So I've got this main backbone sketch sitting at the top of my design tree here. I can use that one. So when I do my circular pattern, I'll set the axis as this set. I promise I will. There. And then the feature I want to pattern is this guy. Okay. And this is already acting strange, right? Look at, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instances with a circular pattern that only has 3. So what's going on? You know, like if I turn down the degree of the angle of pattern, you can see here that it's actually patterned it on both sides. And that's because I'm working off of a mirrored item. And so the pattern is actually being mirrored because we'll call it the seed, that's the original thing we're trying to pattern, is built off of a mirrored object. So basically we can't have that because we only want our pattern to go on one side of the model. So that problem right there is an opportunity for us to learn something new. So I'm going to go and delete my example, my bad example here, delete the mirror. Okay. And so as it turns out, we don't want to mirror the feature. We just want to mirror the sketch. You know, it's just really this sketch here that we want to mirror across. So, you know, we can do that. We just need to kind of do it in a very specific way. So what we're going to do, that first sketch, the sketch we're trying to mirror, we built it on the, what is it? We built it on the front plane here. Yeah, there it is. Let's take a look at that. So there's our front plane, and then we've got our sketch sitting on the front plane. Yeah. So we want to make another open sketch on the front plane. So we're going to go front plane, right click, and sketch. Nothing happens because all we've done is kind of open up a new sketch here, and it's blank. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use this tool. It's right up here. It's under the sketch tab, over to convert entities. We're going to turn on convert entities, and we're going to open up our design tree. And we're going to go to sketch number 11 that's nested inside of our cut revolve. Okay. We're going to enter that sketch into the convert entities tool. And then we're going to approve that. Say okay. Now we'll just kind of take a look at what we're doing here, right? We've basically copied this sketch and duplicated it on, from sketch 11, we've duplicated it and put it on sketch 12 using this convert entities tool. So convert entities took that sketch and duplicated it onto our new sketch, sketch 12. Okay. So that's nice. It's all good. Let's take a look at it normal too. So we'll say Control 8. This will help us relax a little bit. Now we want to mirror this thing from this side over to the other side. So to get it to mirror, we want to put a center line in, and we could do that. We could grab the center line tool here, and just put a little tiny center line in. Doesn't matter how big or small this is. And then we can go to this one here. Okay, this is mirror entities. It's different than the other mirrors we've done because this one just mirrors sketches. That's in SolidWorks, entities are sketches. So mirror entities means to mirror a sketch. So we'll turn that tool on. The entity we want to mirror is right here, sketch number 12. It really doesn't want to select the whole thing, so I'm going to have to enter it piece by piece. Odd. We're going to mirror about. That's this button here, and we're going to hit this line. And it flips it from one side to the other. Okay. Now make sure that copy is unchecked here, because we're just trying to move this sketch very accurately from one side of the model to the other. And then we'll be done. If you hit copy, it'll leave behind the original. We don't want that one. So there she is, nice and clean, perfect sketch, a perfect duplicate of the one that's on the other side. And it's perfectly mirrored to the other side as well. So there's just tons of accuracy in this move here. So that's that. So I can exit out of this sketch right now and I'll be all good. That's job done. But I've got the sketch active. So while I'm here, I might as well go over to my features tab and turn on revolve cut. It's going to act strange now because I've got this construction line sitting in the center and it wants, SolidWorks wants to pretend like it knows way better than me. So it's going to say, oh, well, I get it. He's got an enclosed sketch, you know, plus he's got a construction line. So I know what he wants to do. And I'm going to, and in fact, it's wrong. So I have to adjust the cut revolve. So I'm going to go up here to the axis. I'm going to right click and say delete. And that's going to remove that center line here from being the revolve. And instead, I'm going to enter this line in as the axis of revolution to get my little revolve guy there. Okay. That's that. We'll hit OK. And now we have perfect kind of duplicate, mirrored duplicate of the other thing. And this new setup that we have here is not mirrored and it's not under the control of any other features. So we're good to go. We can use the circular pattern tool now to kind of get in here. And when I turn on circular pattern tool, I like to set the direction one, the axis first, and I'm just going to use this center piece here. So that'll be the center of my circular pattern. The feature that I'm going to pattern is this duplicate, okay? And it's acting funny, you know, it's being strange. It's set to 360 right now. That's this over here. So I want to set this to like, I'll set it to 50. I don't know. And you got to do a little bit of kind of inspiration here. So what I'll do is actually shrink all of SolidWorks so I can look at my image here. Here's what we're trying to get. Here's what we have. So we can kind of adjust the circular pattern here live against our inspiration photo, since I've got it sitting here on my desktop. So I'm just going to adjust the angle to start, because I think I want it to be about halfway. Yeah. That feels close. Okay, and then the thing that we haven't done before is we haven't done this move. So if you look at the circular pattern tool, there's direction number 2. Now, most of the time we do a full 360-degree circular pattern, but this time we're going to actually want the circular pattern to pattern around the circle this way, plus another direction. We want it to go around this way as well, okay? So direction 2 is here, and it's kind of hidden. Honestly, I did patterns for years and never even turned this on one time, but when you need it, you need it, and this is one of those times. So turn on direction 2, okay? And it starts off a little funny. It starts off with an instance of 0, and that's no help because you don't get the preview, you know? So you just need to manually kind of enter in the same settings as you see under direction 1 into direction 2. Or just hit this button. Or hit this button, symmetric, which will copy everything perfectly. Yeah, hit that button, symmetric. I was hoping that's what that button did, and it's true. What that will do, if it's unchecked, right, you go from instant spacing, equal spacing. You see all the settings are different. If you just hit symmetrical, it'll just duplicate it to the other side. So that's a great button because look, we can then adjust both sides of the pattern to whatever we want it to be, and it'll symmetrically go in 2 different directions. So I'm going to set mine to 65, maybe 63. Yeah, maybe 60. Yeah, it seems pretty tight. 62. Final answer. Okay. So that'll be that for this, guys. I'm going to hit the green check box and I'm going to call it a day like that. So I think that's a super duper complex kind of set of instructions for us to kind of take on. And I kind of want to save my work right here, give us a little breather, because in the next little bit for class, we've got to put the logo on. We're going to put some of our graphics on, and we got a gang of work to do on the handle as well. So there's more to come, but I want to save, and I want you guys to save. Oh, and look at, I just overwrote. So this is still in class, fine. But we're on the right track. I would say this is a good kind of spot to take a little 15-minute break. You know, in all honesty, you know, because this is on the fly, I feel like my cuts are a little bit small. You know, that would be the kind of thing that we would prototype in a true design project. We would measure fingertips, you know, between 20 different participants, and then we would make these cuts exact size to the average fingertip of our user group. But we don't have that luxury, and we're just trying to learn the ropes of how to do complex stuff like this. So even though visually it doesn't look right on to our you know, to our reference, I'm still saying that having the technique down is enough to make us happy for a minute. So that's it. So I say let's take 15 minutes, go do something else for a sec, and when we come back, we'll do some graphics and see how far we can get on this handle. So let me know if that sounds okay.
Sounds good. I do have a question though. I got mixed up at the block part or whatever, or where you block the entity or block the sketch and then you're able to mirror it over the center line. Do I need to have that done before I can add the graphics and all that?
No, you don't. And we're going to be blocking all the graphics that we bring into SolidWorks as well. So you're going to see that happen a few more times. But
Okay, cool.
yeah, just to remind you real quick before we go, just in case you're going to be practicing. Let me just turn this on.
Sorry.
Any sketch that you have, you can select the sketch, and then this is the button right here.
Oh, you're not sharing yet.
Oh, so here's my line work, right?
Right.
You draw a sketch over the line, or draw a selection over the line work, you'll get this box that pops up automatically, and then there's the make block tool right there.
Okay, cool. And then
Yeah.
you just flip that over a center line to the other side. And then,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
That's
All right,
it.
I'll do that right now.
Okay, cool guys. All right, I'll see you in 15. What's up, y'all?
Right.
Minutes. Yeah, we're back. Who's there? Is everybody here? Chloe's there.
Here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Right on. Well, let's keep plugging away on this thing and see how much we can get done. Are there any questions, any concerns? Anybody lost? How's it going?
The block and what's it called? Mirror didn't work.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
What's wrong?
I don't know. My program has been glitchy, but it didn't work.
All right. Well, let's see here. It's a kind of complex sort of maneuver where you have to like make an empty sketch and then you use convert entities to duplicate that block into a new sketch. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, so every time I click convert entities and then I go to my tree, right, to click the block,
Yeah.
it won't enter into the thing.
Ah, are you entering the sketch or the block?
The block.
Okay, try the sketch. I'm just gonna let's see. Am I sharing my screen? I am. What I'll do here, this is what I do a lot of times when I'm trying to do something complex and it's not working, is I'll just make a simple kind of a side file to kind of show what I'm trying to do. So I just went here to my front plane and made a circle, and then I'll block it. So I right click on the sketch and go make block.
Sorry, Jim, you didn't share your screen.
Oh, thank you. I was asking about that. Thanks. All right, cool. So I just made a new file here and I made a circle and then I just blocked it. And what I want to do here is I'm going to just, on the same plane that I drew the circle, I'm going to make a new sketch. So I'll right click and I'll say new sketch. Okay. So you can see it here. Here's the new sketch and it's active. So it's ready to kind of accept something. And then I'll go to convert entities and I'll turn on the convert entities tool and unfold the design tree. And I'll go to the first sketch that I want to duplicate onto the new sketch and I'll click that and that should enter it right in. So James, maybe what's happening, let's try it. If we go to block, see block will or jump right in for me too. So
Yeah, I guess I might just have to go back and watch the VODs and figure it out.
yeah, okay. It's all good. So then once you've got that duplicate sketch in there, then we can edit it and move stuff around as needed. Calendar, so item is fixed on the edge. Okay, well, anyway, back to business. Like I said, we're gonna do this on the graphics on the top too a bunch because graphics are especially annoying when it comes to moving them around in SolidWorks. And like, you know, for instance, with the Bose logo, you know, that logo would be sent to you from Bose or from their graphic design department. You can't touch it. So, so we'll get into it. So from this point out, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna want to put this logo into the top of the thing. I think when I was doing this before, I had done the handle first, and we'll just see how far we get with the logo and the blocking of the logo and all that, and then we'll see how much we can fit in here. But the name of the game here is like we want to be able to get this logo to sit pretty on the top of this surface here. And, you know, we don't have too much real estate to work with. We have our front plane, which would shoot sideways if we tried to put line work on it. We have a top plane that's down here where we could put the logo there and then tell it to extrude off this surface up to get the logo right. That might work. And then we have the right plane, which again is kind of a front, back, side to side sort of thing. But one thing I haven't shown you guys yet that I'm excited to show off is the idea of making a new custom plane beyond the front, top, and right plane that's available. So the way to handle this is we're gonna work off of the top plane here. So I've got the top plane selected. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold down Control and watch my mouse as I bring my mouse up to the plane. See how you get that little cross, that little four-way arrow thing? While I'm holding down Control, if I click and drag, I'll actually pull a new plane off of the top plane like that. It's a little shortcut to creating a new plane off of another one. And it does take some kind of like, it takes some practice to feel this one out. I think I started class talking about like the feel of different tools, right? And like, how does this one feel? I mean, first of all, you gotta get your hotkey right. You gotta hold down Control to make it happen. And then you've gotta wait until you see that little up, down, right, left crosshair thing pop up before it can happen. And it's kind of glitchy, like it feels a little chunky when it jumps off of the top plane. But this is an awesome tool because it gives you a new workspace. Over here on the left side, you can see that there is, there's a property manager for the new plane that you've drawn. It's pretty complex, but the one thing that it does have here is it has this really long number right here. That's an offset. So that's the distance between the top plane here, which is how you created it, and then the new plane that you've made. So if you want to, give this a little bit easier to understand number, maybe we just say 500. Okay, and you can see you can move the plane kind of up or down depending on whatever this number is. So if we set it to 1,000 or 1,100, it jumps way high. If we set it to 500 again, it'll move back down. So because it's a little wonky, it's kind of nice to set the spacing on it, the position on it using these parameters over here. So, so that's good. So we'll hit the green check box. And now we have this new plane and it actually shows up in the design tree, plane number 1. So, I could show this day one, but it takes a second, I think, for new SolidWorks users to sort of get the gist of how, every move we make should be done off of, a plane. And I introduced the stock planes, the ones we get front, top, and right. But we have the ability to make planes, as many planes as we want in the SolidWorks file. So in a situation like the one we're in now, where we kind of want to work on the top of this design, top of this 3D CAD model, and we've been building from the ground up. It's nice to be able to have a new workspace, a new piece of paper to draw on. So that's what we're going to do. So, so here's how this goes. So I just click on that plane. If I click on it, it sort of highlights itself, and then we can go over here to Insert, okay, and then down the list to DXF/DWG. This is the tool that's going to bring in our logo. And before I do it, I'll show you some strange things about this tool, okay? So there it is right there. If I don't have a plane selected and I'm just hanging out and I go to view, sorry, if I go to insert and I try to turn on DXF, it's going to give me a warning right away. And it's going to say, hey, please select a plane or a planar face where the DXF image will be inserted. So if you don't know like what we're doing here, like then this is all going to seem confusing because you won't know what a DXF or a DWG is. It refers to it as an image, which is strange. So this is one of the things that you really need somebody to kind of show you how it goes in SolidWorks. It's very, very kind of strangely worded. So step one is to select the plane in space. You don't have to start a sketch on the plane. In fact, if you do start a sketch on the plane and then you go to insert, you notice that DXF is grayed out. Like it's not even possible to put the sketches into SolidWorks if you have an open sketch. So it's very odd. So delete that sketch. It's one of the very few things in SolidWorks where you just select the plane. You just make a new plane and you select it. Okay, so then you go insert DXF. And let's see, I've got speaker project and I've got graphics here and I want my Bose logo. DXF CAD ready. Remember that's the one we made? There it is, DXF. Stands for Drawing Exchange Format. It's a way to switch line work from one program to another. It's typically used in AutoCAD, which is a program that the architecture department uses a lot. It's a 2D CAD software. So just hit open and we'll get this strange looking box with terrible graphics. There's a import to part as 2D sketch. There's this section here that says import as reference. I'm going to uncheck that box. Okay, so there's that. That's all we need to do. Now down here at the bottom, there's a couple of strange buttons. One of them says next, and we're going to hit next. More strangeness, but it shows you the logo that we've got there, but it puts it on a black background for some reason. So you can turn on white background just to see what you're going to put in there a little bit easier. It's the only reason to do that. Everything here looks good. We'll hit next again. Okay, this is all just, this part of the tool is checking the line work for gaps, gaps of 0.001, and there are none because this is a clean logo. So it's just trying to get ahead of that. So we can just hit finish now. The next button goes away and we hit finish. This thing will happen here. There'll be this kind of strange formatting thing happen. And then here we go. So it's kind of like oddly set up. So we have to kind of find the logo, and you can see here that it has put the logo in, but it is gigantic. Okay. The logo is way, way, way too big. And that's pretty typical, to be honest. If you don't make the logo the right size in Illustrator for the model, then you're always going to have this issue where, you know, here's your model over here, here's the size of the logo, and it's always kind of way too big. So it's important when you do put graphics into SolidWorks to be able to scale them correctly. And this is where the block tool really comes in handy. So you can see here that I'm in 3D mode, okay? And I want to look at this thing normal too. So I'm going to say Control 8, all right? And I'm going to draw a box over the entire logo. And I'm going to say Make Block right here. Here's the Make Block button. So I hit that button, and then I go over and I hit the green check box. Okay. And then what I can do is you could see the difference in the look of the logo. For instance, when you first put it in, it's blue, and then when you block it, it turns gray. So notice I'm still inside my sketch. I can see that the block tool has worked and I've made a block. But what I'm going to do is, while this is still active, I'm just going to click on one line of the logo here, just one. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring up the property manager for the block itself. Here's block 2 at the top, it says. And down here, if you follow my mouse, it says parameters. And this box here with a 1 in it, this is your scale parameter. So we want to scale this thing way down. So we're going to go ahead and hit the down arrow to scale it way down. And we want to make sure to move the logo kind of into position. So we're going to kind of overlap it over the model as we scale it down. So we're going to kind of have to scale this thing down. Oops. And if you click off of it, you might need to click back onto it. And when you do click back onto it, you want to grab the bar or grab like the meat of the logo, not like a point. So we just kind of get it near the model as we're scaling it down. And we'll skip ahead a little bit here and just say, okay, if we're at 0.2, we can say 0.01. Kind of put it into position here. There we go. And it's annoying, you know, this is annoying. You gotta like zoom in on it and it's hard to grab onto. You gotta kind of fiddle your mouse over it. Get at it. Come on. You can see it kind of flickering, like it wants to grab it. Come on, do what I want. Okay, sorry, this is getting a little bit annoying. Let me try a different trick here. If I actually change the visualization of my model to a wireframe here, it might get at it a little bit better. Come on, baby. There she goes. See, you just got to get your mouse on it. And once you click it, you get access to all the scale tools. So one of the things that's awesome about this logo in particular is that it has a lot of straight lines in it. And so that's great because what we can do when we're dealing with a logo that has a lot of straight lines is we can use these horizontal and vertical buttons to kind of rotate the logo as needed. So for instance, right now, this logo is horizontal and we want to flip it on its end. And so we select one flat bar like this, and then you can hit vertical and it'll rotate the whole thing as one. And so that's really awesome. So that's good. We're still having trouble kind of grabbing onto it. It's just finicky. That's all. Just takes work and time, and you know, it's just, you know, this is not SolidWorks' favorite thing to do. There is a sometimes, let's see, sometimes there's some stuff that you can do here. There's a invert selection. Anyway, I'll just keep playing with it, see if I can zoom in on it and kind of get at it. I just want to grab onto that thing. Come on, babe. All right. I think I'm going to do I'm going to do some emergency procedures here just because this poor logo is not wanting to let me grab onto it. So one of the things I'll do just to kind of take a look at what's going on here from a different angle, you know, I've got this plane that's sort of hanging out, and maybe SolidWorks is having trouble understanding, do I want to grab onto block that's on the plane. So just like any other bits of line work in SolidWorks, we'd be able to hide things and show things. So I'm going to right click on the plane and I'm going to go to this button here for hide. I'm going to hide that. Okay. And I really, I'm actually having some kind of stress coming up here on the whole idea that like, that I can't grab onto this thing. Like it's sitting right there. Let's look at it normal 2 again. Some other moves that I could pull off here that make this thing maybe a little bit easier to work is if I go to my solid bodies and actually hide a few of these and just sort of kind of remove some of the geometry that I'm looking at, that might help it. So I'll look normal 2. If I haven't showed you guys this trick before, this little button right here is the normal 2 button. So I'm going to right click on that and just look normal 2.
Do you think it's maybe because we've shrunk it down so much, the line's like almost infinitely small?
Well, I think, yeah, you're on the right track with that idea. I think that one maybe mistake that I made when I imported this line work in is that I did it in inches. And so it came in so big. And now we've shrunk it down so small from where it was that it might be just acting funny because of that. So let's try a different one. So I'll do the whole move again, okay? Here's my plane, I'll show it. Let's try it this way. So I select the plane I want to put the logo on. I'll go to Insert DXF. We're going to go through the whole thing again. Put the DXF in. Okay. Uncheck Import as Reference. Go Next. Here, this might be the clincher. Units of imported data is set to inches. So let's set it to millimeters, which is the same units as our file. We'll say Next and Finish. Okay, that's immediately a much more manageable size. So let's deal with that. Let's select it. Same procedure again. We'll block it. Hit Enter. And we're going to set this to vertical. I'm just going to look normal 2 and scale it down. Yeah, it's already feeling a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, this is our problem. See, there she goes. All right, cool. So I'm calling it there. That looks good. We got one good one and one lousy one. Fun. Good. So now I get to learn how to delete stuff. So take a look at my design tree, guys. Okay, I've got sketch 14 and block 2-1. This is the bad one. I imported it in inches instead of millimeters, and that was bad designer. So delete, and it goes away. So anyway, here's our manageable working logo. And I mean, for throwing it down without thinking about it very much in the midst of my frustration, it's looks like it's sitting pretty. I'm calling it. I think it looks good, just like that. So fine. All right, cool. So we're gonna do that old trick that I told you guys about maybe 2 classes ago, where we're gonna use this logo, this sketch here, to do an extrusion, boss extrude. But instead of having the extrude come from the sketch, we're going to have the extrusion start on this surface here. Okay. So if you don't remember how to do that, let me show you. We're going to go boss extrude. We are going to click this sketch. Did it work? Come on, man. happened? Hold on. Stop. Boss extrude. It wants a sketch, so we have to come in here and tell it this sketch is the one that we want to work off of. There. It'll start to extrude up in space like that. I'll just give that a little toss around to see what it's doing. Kind of get our brains thinking in 3D. That's not what we want. If we look at the property manager for the boss extrude, the first setting is from. See where it says from? And we're going to change that from the sketch plane to a surface face plane. So we'll turn that to that. And then we get this new little box that pops up that says, hey, what surface do you want to start at? And we just hit this surface here. Okay. And I mean, this is pretty cool. Pretty cool in terms of how it's working. I mean, if we look at this thing from this view here, what I think is cool about this is that the arc of the extrusion actually matches the arc of the top of our item here. So it's really cool that that happens. In fact, this is one of the things that like how I got my job at Life Factory. When I was working at Life Factory, their old designer would just do straight flat extrusions into curved surfaces. And so their logos were always wonky and like flat against curved surfaces. And when you try to injection mold that, it comes out really bad. So their logo was tweaking out on all their product. And it's because they didn't know about this trickaroo. So I was able to come in and say, oh, I can fix up those logos right away. You know, that'd be no problem if you guys want to go to town. And so they said yes, and the rest is history. So this is obviously way too high of an extrusion. We'll set it to something micro, like 0.5 millimeter, maybe 1 millimeter. Yeah, and that's that. Okay. So that's good. Now there's a key thing that's about to happen here that you need to recognize, which is the fact that this button, the merge result button, is going to combine this boss extrude into the rest of this cap. We don't really want that. So I'm going to uncheck merge result, and that's going to allow this logo to sit on there as its own entity, its own separate kind of form. Okay, so that's important. Okay, but look at what happens over here in the solid bodies folder. All right, solid bodies folder is got 4 different bodies for each of the letters in the logo. Okay, plus it's got all the other bodies that we've built so far. So a new trick that I just discovered today that you guys can learn off of me is, you know, you select multiple bodies, all the letters here, and hold down Shift and select all 4 of them and right click and go down to Save Selection, New Selection Set. And what that does is it makes a new folder up here at the top of your design tree that's got kind of a duplicate of those 4 items in it. And it nests them all together into this selection set. So you still keep all your individual solid bodies, okay? But the selection set up here just allows you to easily grab those specific 4 items very quickly. And so that's great. That's a kind of a really cool thing. And then from here, you can right click and you can select all 4 of them, and you can right click and go to appearances and go to body. And we'll just put a little separate color on there. We'll just put a gray color. Okay. And so that is just a very quick way to get this thing selected and kind of just organizes your files. So it might not seem mandatory. I mean, it's only 4 letters. So you guys could very easily just select them down here in the regular solid bodies folder. But try to remember that, like, you know, a real live SolidWorks file of an electrical or mechanical product could have several hundred, even thousands of components inside of it. And so this is a very basic introduction to how you would organize a SolidWorks file that had 1,000 parts in it, you know, so. I don't know if I told you guys about the milkshake company I worked for a little while, where they're like, oh, you know, SolidWorks, here's a SolidWorks file of our milkshake maker. And it was everything in the milkshake maker, all the nuts and bolts and washers and gaskets and tubes and pumps. And I mean, this was a milkshake maker called For Real. And let's see if we can look them up. They're really cool. FER, For Real milkshakes. Yeah, so you go into 7-Eleven, and if you want a milkshake, you can get one of these milkshakes out of the freezer, and you stick it in the For Real machine, and it will like blend up, kind of like a flurry from McDonald's. It blends up a milkshake, and anyway, their website's like frozen or something. They got a TikTok. You can check that out. They put me down in front of the full CAD file for their entire milkshake maker, and it was, I think it was like 3,500 parts or something inside of it. And I got to hang out and drink milkshakes and look at their CAD for the day. So that is the move that you guys need to know about for how to get all the graphics onto these buttons. Okay, so this is going to be your homework assignment, is going to be to get into Illustrator, and I want you guys to draw out all of these graphics for the buttons and put them onto the top of the speaker. Okay. I'll do it one more time just to kind of make sure that you guys can see me do it and that it's recorded on the video here. So you guys will have access to that. So I'm just gonna, again, I'm gonna select my custom plane here, and I'm gonna go up to Insert, DXF. Okay, let's see, this time I'm going to use my graphics R1 DXF. This is the one that has both the images or both the graphics in there. I'm going to say open. I'm going to uncheck import for reference, say next. There's my graphics. They look okay. Lesson learned, I'm going to set the size or the imports of units to match my file, so millimeters. And we'll say next and finish. And look, these ones are going to be super small. Love it. Oh, you got to love 3D CAD for being annoying. So I'm going to look normal too, Control 8. Okay. I am going to, I'll delete one of them. I only need one of them, so I can, at this point, before I block the graphics, I can treat them like regular sketches that I would draw myself. So be careful at this point. You know, if you pull on this thing, it's going to tweak. So don't pull on it. You got to block your sketch right away as it comes in. And also the other thing too, if you just select the sketch, it's going to treat it like a generic spline. You don't have a scale button. In order to activate scale, you need to select the sketch and then block it. And block is the thing that has the scale option available. So after you block it, then you click on it, and then you can scale it up. Okay. Okay, now this one, it's going to need to flip sideways to fit here. Let's keep scaling it up. Set this to 6 or 10. No, not 610. Let's set it to 20. Oh, maybe 40. Okay, now for your homework, guys, you're going to be making these graphics from scratch. So if I were you, I would measure these buttons, and then I would make your graphics the right size. So when you bring them in, they work right. And you don't have to do all this scaling stuff. But just in case you do it like I did, then you know how to handle it. So this just needs to get rotated. So I'm just gonna select one of these little bars here. Let me get one. Come on. Oh, it's gonna act funny again, isn't it? There is an angle adjuster here, so you could just set this to 90 if you want to flip it sideways. It's right below the scale one. Luck down on that one. So here's our on button. I'm just going to eyeball it right now. No stress. Easy peasy. Okay. And the same move again. Okay. Once you've scaled it and moved it into position, then you can exit that sketch. Make sure you're down here at the bottom of the design tree. You can go to extruded boss base. Okay. Tell the extruded boss base that you want to use that sketch. Here's sketch 17. You should see it fire off. There it goes. And then once you see that it's working, you go to, not this, but from. It's the from setting and tell it to start from a certain surface. And then you just click that surface and it'll start from that surface. And then I'll let you decide what you think the height should be, because we don't have that measurement, but I've been using 1 millimeter. Okay. And then the last little tip that I gave you guys was to keep it from joining into the rest of the cap. You just make sure to uncheck the merge result feature, which is actually, let's see here. Yeah, here it is, merge result. There we go. So even if you forget to do that part, you can always open up the boss extrude again and uncheck merge result, and then you're good to go. And then from there, if you want to follow along with me, you can change the appearance. Right here, you have to unfold the design tree to get to the appearance panel. But down here at the bottom, you can click this little row, or sorry, that's a column for appearance. And you can grab a color for it. Okay. And I'm just going to hide the plane I'm working off of here. Okay. Very good. And I'm going to hide my center line because I'm done with that. And there we go. So we got ourselves an on button. We got ourselves a crispy clean logo. We're good to go. I'm going to save this work. And then what I'm also going to do is just really quickly, not to take class any further because I think you guys have got enough to chew on, but I do want to quickly just import this into KeyShot to see how it's looking. So I think I've told you guys about this in the past, how KeyShot can be a really good program for checking your work. This especially comes into play for these microscopic little details like the logo height and stuff. Hello, do it. Oh my God, my computer's not happy with me. I think that Zoom actually takes up a fair amount of computing power, guys. I think to record a Zoom meeting with all of you, I think this eats up a lot of my work, a lot of my computer's capabilities. So I'm just going to throw a matte black on here. I promise. I don't know what these circles are. I wonder if I cut through the CAD. Weird. Anyway, this is what I was talking about. Okay, so in SolidWorks it looks all good, but here in KeyShot, the height of my logo actually looks way too big. Like it does not look realistic. And golly, it also kind of looks like it's floating a little bit, or maybe that's just the glossiness of the material, giving a little bit of a drop shadow. Either way, you can move it around here. So if we open up the scene tree in KeyShot, and we go here to some of the things that are, oh, look, here's my whole cluster of tools. This is my whole logo right here. It's 4 different items. If I move them, you can kind of customize the height here in KeyShot if you want by just using the move tool. I was just doing that to sort of test this drop shadow and see, like, is this little drop shadow because of the reflection off the paint? And it looks like, yes, it is. So we can approve that. Let's actually try just one more thing. Sorry, guys. I know I get weird about this, but let's go to, here's the Boss Extrude for the logo. Let's edit it. Let's actually merge it into the rest of the body. Okay, and we'll go back to KeyShot, and then we will import the same file and update the geometry. Update geometry. See if that drop shadow goes away. It's definitely going to pick up the same material as before. And it seems to be taking its pretty little time with this deal. But this will go quick. I don't know, it doesn't look better. Anyway, okay, well, lesson learned at least though that the Boss Extrude is a little bit high. So that's just another use for KeyShot. If we had more views of this thing, we'd be able to figure it out. So I'm gonna call it right there, guys. It's 10 o'clock. I haven't heard from you guys much today, but that's all good. You've got a solid like masterclass recording of how to pull this stuff off. Pour through it and get the graphics done for all of that and get them into your file. And then when we start next class, we'll start to work on that handle and all the other stuff as well. Because that handle, this handle here, is really where, you know, we get into using the split tool, which is what I thought we were going to be talking about the whole class today. But instead, since we didn't get to this part, split didn't come up as much as I thought. But there's a whole gang of stuff. Just as a quick recap, we learned about circular patterns and doing them in a different way, doing like a non-360 degree revolved circular pattern. We learned about the convert entities tool, which is like duplicate edge in Rhino. We learned about the timeline and how to move the timeline back and forth to move through different phases of our design process and how to edit our circular patterns and add detail to them using the timeline. We learned all about Illustrator and how to create proper graphics for SolidWorks, how to save DXF files. We learned about, I mean, a whole bunch of Illustrator stuff, Pathfinder, stroke weight, you know. Some stuff we didn't get to today is things like master models and how we're building this thing as a master model, which would then need to be spit out into individual models. We learned a lot about blocking sketches and how annoying it is and how finicky it is. And for homework, you guys are going to learn a lot more about that because you're going to have to do it a bunch of times to get your models set. So I'm going to leave it there and wish you guys luck and let you know to keep in touch with me. And, you know, if you feel like these graphics are good enough, then to get this process in your brain, then, you know, go ahead and make those. If you want to make these graphics and your own set of cooler graphics, then you could do that too, you know. If you know you got to make graphics for your ID class, maybe make those. Kill two birds with one stone. Anyway, lots to go. So we got another week on this project before we flip over to start doing the binoculars. So so next class will be similar with me kind of just walking through the steps to get us to a certain point. So yeah, so that's going to be it.
Thanks, Jim.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
No problem, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
You.
I wish you the best of luck, and you keep in touch with me through email. Any questions? Anything, guys? I think those graphics will keep you guys busy enough.
All right, sounds good. I did want to ask, I have to build a coffee maker in 3D design or CAD software. Can I like hit you up about like maybe getting some help with that when the time comes?
Yeah. Shoot me some sketches. If you got like initial concept sketches, we can start talking about it right away. Yeah, I can help you right through it. Is that for Alex?
Yeah, for Alex. Yeah, I have the orthographics done, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll help you out. Yeah, hit me up anytime.
Sweet, sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. That goes for everybody too. If you're getting hit hard in studio, let me see what you got, and we'll make sure Alex is happy.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, guys. I'll see you later.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye.
Have a
Yeah.
good night.
All right.
Good
Bye.
night.